Alrighty. Well, we are live now at 6 o'clock. Welcome to the forum for our third precinct. It's going to be a bit shorter than we had second precinct. Yes. I didn't read my notes. This is the third candidate forum that today is done. This is the second precinct. Two of the candidates had declined to be here. I extended them an invitation to be here. I also invited them to answer questions. They also didn't submit those either, so that's why we're stuck with Karr here. So, Kurt is the owner of Monkey This, and he's a candidate for the second precinct. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Excuse me, with the exception of a couple of years, I've lived in Vinton my entire life. I married Lou Alpers 43 years ago, and we have two children. Our son Austin works in the business full-time and joins us and our clients via video conference, and he and his wife, two children, live in Denver, Colorado. My daughter is a physician at Virginia Gay, and her husband and three boys live in Vinton. So,
all right. Now, we had a question. Why did you decide to run this time but not the last time?
I didn't run the first time because it's a lot of work. So you spend a lot of time. It's really not what I would think of as the most pleasurable hobby. It's easy to lose friends. It's easy to make enemies. And, I think for all those reasons, it's pretty clear why people don't get involved. This time, however, I think the council did the right thing when they decided to have a special election. But if the citizens won't step up and do their part, then I felt that we were really leaving the council kind of out on a limb. They're spending money, they're making the effort, and if they end up back in the same place where they just have to appoint someone, then I think as citizens we've done them a disservice.
And what vision do you have for Vinton, and how do you think that the council can move this forward?
I think one of the things I've really been interested in seeing for some time is for Vinton to be a leader in community involvement. I think it's very important that we encourage folks to be involved. I think the city council can do a lot along that line. I think they're trying. But I think we can do more to make sure that we have a wider variety of people. Our opinions change based on our age, our gender, where we live in town, our socioeconomic status, and I think that we should do what we can to make sure everyone feels that they can participate.
Now, iVinton has been one of the projects that you were there for from the beginning, and what would you like to see happen next with iVinton?
Well, first of all, I don't really think the citizens of Vinton really understand what a leader in telecommunications Vinton has become. So between 2005 and 2015, there were only 3 communities that passed a referendum for a telecommunications utility. One of them was Bedford, a little town of 1,400. The other one was Decorah, and Vinton. Of those 3, over a period of 10 years, Vinton was the only one that is actually building a system. Now, we've done some amazing things. We have something in the neighborhood of 81% of our premises have signed up to have a duct installed. We have already reached about 63% of our year 1 goal for the number of people who are signing up. I mean, it's phenomenal, and people across the state look at what we're doing, and they hope that they can do as well. And since Vinton kicked off their project, we've been joined by Pella, who's constructing a utility, New Hampton is constructing a utility, and there are other communities. Ames, Fort Dodge, and Tipton are all actively looking at it, along with Waterloo. So Vinton was really in the lead on this, and I just don't think folks really understand. As far as what to do in the future, the first thing is make sure people sign up. So if you did step 1, but you haven't done step 2, you need to do that, or else you're not going to be able to sign up. Number 2, don't wait for the rush. the primary contractor is only here so long. And so the fear is what's going to happen is that a whole bunch of people are going to sign up at the end. That contractor is going to move back and forth across town very inefficiently, and they're going to wrap up before they get everything done, and then that means people will have to wait. So getting folks to sign up, and then beyond that, I think we could easily be providing fixed wireless to the rural area around Vinton. It would be in the neighborhood of 50 megabits, which isn't near what we're going to have, but it's certainly sufficient to run a business, run a farm, and I would really like to see us move ahead with that once ours is firmly established.
All right. And then we had one question come in specifically for Kurt. So since you and your group of relatives and friends have been quoted recently as being champions of transparency in our local government, why in 2018 did you secretly go behind the backs of the VMU board with which you had been attending meetings and working closely with for the past several years to file a formal complaint with the Iowa Public Information Board, and then they gave the file number 18FC:0069, which was later completely dismissed, regarding non-compliant ADA meetings instead of merely bringing your concern to the VMU board's attention, either formally or informally, and saving your city and its electric ratepayers needless legal fees. And that was from Mike Elwick, the past VMU board chairman. And so how would you like to answer that?
Well, there are a lot of assertions wrapped up in a couple of questions, so it's going to take me a moment to kind of unpack that. So, first of all, the issue was meetings after the meeting and having a board meeting and then immediately going to, in this case, the rendezvous, to have another meeting, I don't think is appropriate. And the first thing you learn when you're on the school board, one of the very first things they teach you, is that you don't have quorum of the board meeting privately. And one of the reasons for that is it's very difficult for the public to determine whether you're doing the business of the city in private. And so it's a really bad idea, and that's the first thing you're taught. And so the primary purpose of my complaint was that issue of having a tradition of meeting after the meeting as a board, and I didn't think that was appropriate. It was 53 years ago, in 1967, that Iowa's open meeting laws were passed. And that's when most school boards, city councils, boards of supervisors quit the practice of getting together and meeting informally. So before I was on the school board, a long time before that, it was very common that that was a practice. And today it is not. So as far as the ADA compliance issue goes, it was in 1973, 47 years ago, that the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed. And what that means is that government facilities need to be accessible to those with disabilities. That can be a mobility handicap, it can be a hearing impairment, it can be a visual impairment. And the expectation is that we provide facilities that are suitable to everyone who wishes to attend. Now, an important part of that is the person with a disability does not have to petition for special treatment. So the fact of the matter is we see that everywhere we go. When we cross the street, we've got a ramp and those little bumps. We go to the courthouse, we go to City Hall, we go to the post office, and those facilities are compliant. So I think it's only appropriate that the electric utility actually provide those spaces as well. Now, both of the problems have been solved. One of them has been solved through attrition on the board. We no longer have a quorum of friends who are serving on the board together. So those folks can get together as friends and it's just fine. The other issue is that yes, the city attorney was involved, and he did say to the attorneys, the IPIB, that the board would no longer be meeting in a non-compliant space. So those problems have both been solved. So, finally, kind of on the issue of secretly behind their backs, which I think is intended to question the commitment to transparency, I think the board was pretty well aware of how I felt about the meetings. I had brought up numerous times that I felt that we should be involving the public. We should be having those meetings in places that the public could attend, not where they were at. I suggested that we invite the city council because I wanted everybody to understand what was going on. So I think they were well aware of that. And then finally, when you file with the Iowa Public Information Board, they make very clear that everything you say is a public record. Now, the complaint was dismissed because after the board had gone through training for open meetings and after they had complied with ADA, they were still meeting after the meeting, and I felt that was inappropriate. So I wouldn't sign the agreement, which is why it was dismissed. So I hope I answered that thoroughly.
All right, considering it's the 21st century, how do you feel all the public documents should be made available to the public?
Yeah, I do. It's very frustrating when you're in the audience at City Council, for example, and they refer to the information in their packet, and you have no idea as to what that is. So I don't see any reason in the world that before a City Council meeting, that information isn't posted on the website, and that the public be able to have access to that at the same time they're in the meeting.
And for those of you just joining us, I wanted to let you know that the form for the second precinct has changed. Two of the candidates declined an invitation to attend, also declined an invitation to submit written answers to the questions that we're asking. And I understand it's also cutting out really bad, so I'll upload this to YouTube after the meeting is finished so that you can see it later.
Maybe the internet connection isn't good enough?
Yes, that's what it keeps telling me on my phone. It
Yeah.
keeps cutting out. So, all right, what makes you proud of the Vinton community?
You know, I'm always proud of the community. That doesn't mean we don't have problems, but you know, to give you one example of something that I'm really proud of, you know, each year my son and granddaughters and my daughter-in-law come back to Vinton for Party in the Park. It's a great opportunity to show off our community. It's a great opportunity to have a family event, and I think it's indicative of the way the community is. So I'm always proud.
How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our town?
You know, the City Council is currently working on a plan that would more systematically involve members of the community. So the idea is that openings on boards and commissions, for example, would be posted 3 months in advance. The idea at present is it would be in the newspaper, on the bulletin board in City Hall. I think we could do better than that, but it's a good first step. I would really rather follow the lead of many of the other communities in Iowa, like Des Moines, Sioux City, Iowa City, where they're constantly recruiting people to serve on boards and commissions. And their website has a place where you can apply, or you can, if you want, you can print the form and send it in via mail. But they're always asking people to be involved, and I'd like to see us do that as well. There were a couple of other things that I had communicated to the council that I'd like to see. One would effectively create term limits on people on boards and commissions. So in the Iowa City example, they say that having served on a board or commission in the past does not give you preference to serve again. I think that's a good idea. They also say that if you've served once before, you can only serve on that board or commission one more time. Now, our community is smaller. I think a good way around that would be to say, you can serve twice. So if you're on the electric utility board, that's 12 years. But now you wait the same amount of time to serve again. Or another appointment that's 4 years. If you served twice, you'd wait 8 years. And I think that way we'd be able to create continuity through rotation of the positions rather than appointing the same people over and over again.
Okay, we had a question come in that asked, what would be the first 3 things that you would tell an individual or company why they should relocate to Vinton?
There are actually 4 things. Can I use 4?
Sure.
We have a safe community. We have excellent, I think, leisure opportunities. We have a great park and rec department. I'm proud of our school district. I think we have a great educational system, and we provide an excellent opportunity to access health care. So we're the only truly full-service community in Benton County. And I think we should really, really focus on that and talk about it a lot.
Okay. What do you hope to accomplish as a member of the council? Kind of, we touched on that a little bit earlier, but.
Yeah, that's a little different question. You know, from my experience on the school board, I learned that one of the most important things you can do is work cooperatively with other people on the board or the council. So the person who may not be in favor of something that you're really excited about in this moment may be the person who's championing your ideas in the next moment. So I think the question is, are you able to move on, look at each issue on the merits, or do you get caught up harboring grudges or whatever that keeps you from functioning effectively? So I think for me, functioning as part of that team and understanding that individual council people have no authority and no power except in working as a council to pass resolutions and other motions.
Okay. You are a business owner in the city. Do you currently do business with the city of Vinton?
So the letter or the literal answer would be no, we don't. We used to when we owned the office supply company. We had various departments in the city that did purchase from us. That business is gone. We now do marketing and advertising. So the answer is no, we don't, but I don't think that's really the spirit of the question. I think the spirit of the question is there anything that the community or citizens should be aware of that could be a potential conflict? And we do have a contract, we're a subcontractor to the firm that the utility selected to do compliance consulting and marketing. So we work with them, we work at their direction, and the check that we get comes from them. So that answers, I hope, the spirit of the question, not just the letter.
And then kind of a follow-up to that was, how will you vote on any ordinance or resolution that will result in direct payment to your company from the city?
Again, I ran into that instance many years ago, and it was my policy that I would always abstain. Now, we had an issue recently where, unbeknownst to a lot of folks, many years ago, an abstention was a yes vote. I know the council is working to change that. I think that'll happen very soon. If that were still the case, I would vote no. I would vote always to abstain. And as a matter of fact, in the past, I abstained from issues that were related directly to competitors because I didn't think it was appropriate for me to vote against a competitor. Now, if I thought it was a positive thing, I wasn't afraid to vote yes either. So,
all right.
Answer your question?
Sure, or their question. What will you do to make citizens of the surrounding area feel more included in the Vinton community?
I think one of the things we could do is in pushing out that fiber, the internet to the surrounding area. The people who live around Vinton contribute to our community. They're involved in our community. Their children go to school here. And I think if we're able to move those services out, it would be very beneficial. Rhinebeck does that. And I think they've stretched out really quite a ways. So I would like to see us do that. I think that's an important part of involving the wider community and providing services to people who really are important to our community.
We had another question come in. It says, I live in rural Benton County, and I'm interested in retiring to Vinton. Why should I move to Vinton for retirement?
You know, the challenge, I think, for Vinton as a retirement community has been housing availability. What you find kind of in that area is people are ready to downsize when they get to that age. They want a smaller place. We haven't had an abundance of, say, zero lots or townhouses or things like that that people could choose from. So, you know, the first element we need is we need that housing component. But beyond that, you know, when you look at folks making decisions, you kind of have two groups of people that might be likely to move to the community. One group is younger. They're just getting established. Maybe they have a young family. And they're principally concerned with education, leisure, jobs, and safety. And then you have another group, the older folks, the ones who want to retire. And their concerns are safety, health care, leisure. So there's an intersection of those things. And I think promoting that and really understanding how to make that more robust is something we can do that will benefit us on both ends of the age spectrum.
All right. What does Vinton offer for new residents?
And I don't mean to be a dead horse, but leisure, healthcare, great education, I mean, it's the same thing. So.
Okay. What is the one major issue you plan to address?
I don't have an issue I plan to address. I don't have an axe to grind. I'm not upset with anyone. I think each and every time that I've spoken to the council, I have tried to remember, and if I was remiss, I apologize, to thank you for the time that you spend and the effort you put in. So I think what's important there is not to come in with an idea that, well, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, but rather, again, participating as a member of a team. It's a challenge to maintain independence of thought while also participating and being a valuable member of a team. That's always the challenge, these kinds of things.
And our last question.
Good.
What makes you stand out from other candidates?
Well, they're not here, so I can't address that really. I think, to the best of my knowledge, what would separate me is having had experience 3 terms on the school board, where we're working through budgets. We understand how important policy is. We know we're not managers. Our responsibilities were as board members very different. And the same thing's really true from city council standpoint. So that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming tonight. Otherwise, this would have been really boring. I wanted to mention that early voting is also open now. You can also request an absentee ballot. Contact the auditor's office. Thanks for watching. And we'll
May I make
Sure.
one more statement?
Sure.
The last time there was an election, no one was on the ballot. There were only 48 votes. A write-in of 2 was the big vote getter. So regardless of who you might support, I really hope you get out and vote. I think it's great that the city council decided to have this special election. But these things don't count unless you participate. So no matter who you vote for, I hope you'll get out and participate.
All righty. Well, thanks for watching. We'll catch you online as soon as I get home.
And so I think we're going to have some things to offer with that. So yeah, I think so. And I think perhaps even more importantly for young families, they get their entertainment, their information, they do their work online. I think this is really key. If we didn't have this, I really feel like we would be in trouble. I do want to tell people, Mediacom is sponsoring legislation that would make it much more difficult to form a utility. And so as you see information about this, I hope you pick up a pen, you write, you talk to your representatives, and maybe we'll have a new one that we can talk to. They really didn't get actively trying to defeat these until Vinton was well along the path. I just don't think they saw us coming, but they have been very, very active in trying to keep other communities from moving forward, Freedom of Information Act requests, all kinds of stuff. So I think it's important, and I think we're fortunate.